Okay, here's a game I played today. Had a couple minutes, had a break, about 5 minutes, something like that. Decided to play the computer, and gave me white, and I decided I'd take a shot at the Spanish. So came E4, and with Black's response, I was like, hey, Spanish. No. Apparently not. Philidor. So that was disappointing, especially since I don't really know very much about Philidor. But decided to try to take on that pawn. And that was, of course, to head off my my bishop parking right here and putting the king in check right there. So I guess in that sense it was a smart idea. I went ahead and thought I'd go a little Italian on them. Put a little pressure up on the F7, and came back with take. So I think that's pretty standard right now. I was kind of expecting the knight to come out here, but it didn't. I guess that's what happens when you play a computer sometimes, when you don't play it at its highest level. Anyway, not that I'm an expert, that's for sure, but usually you don't put the queen out on the fifth move. I didn't see a danger, so I went ahead and castled. Excuse me. Queen came down there, and then I wasn't certain exactly what was going on, why the queen would just move over one, because there's no threat here that wasn't there before, and so I figured that must be where it's going. So it must be that knight f6 coming out eventually anyway, and probably trying to hit here with the next move. Yeah, I guess I was expecting the knight to come there and then there to support the queen move, and that would have put me in mate if I didn't see it, of course, or do anything about it. So I brought the queen up, and it probably wasn't necessary at this point, but I wanted to have provision against, you know, something happening along the side. So came out with the knight as I expected. Now, if the queen had taken the pawn, there's nothing I really could have done unless I wanted an exchange right there. But I figured that's not where it was headed anyway. So I brought up the I guess I could have done that, I suppose. That would have made just as much sense. Or that. Well, I guess as far as that goes, could have done that just as well. And it would have protected the pawn. Oh, obviously I wasn't thinking. Yeah, anyway, the idea was, my idea, and you could say stupidity, but whatever, was that I figured the knight would be heading here to go for the queen, but I figured I'd try to limit the queen's movement a little bit. So that's why I moved that out. So, attacking the bishop. I guess that was expected, really, but sort of backed myself up there. I'm waiting for that c pawn to come down, and so at some point I'm going to have to move that my c pawn up to either 3 or 4. So to prevent that, and next move, of course, that's what happened. Threatened the knight there. I had to get rid of the knight, clear that out of there. And I thought at the same time that probably the best thing to do was to go ahead and put a little pressure on the queen. So I figured I'd be moving it there. So that's what I did. Queen move there, which is natural for it, really, because I would expect that the next move would probably be there. except that protects it, so that helps me some. But so at this moment, I go ahead and move the pawn up to take on that b5 pawn, and it brings the bishop across. And I guess I could have just stayed there and it wouldn't have hurt me. I have both the bishop and the queen backing up the pawn, but I thought at the same time I could just move it down here, remove that, and put the queen under pressure. So that's what I did. Pawn took, and I could have put the queen in one of these two spots. Like, that would have made sense, because that would have had the bishop and the queen moving in the same direction along this diagonal. And usually it's pretty good. I would have had to get rid of the queen at some point, but that's a different matter. I didn't do that though. I moved there. Not the best move, but I guess under the circumstances not the worst. I guess on some level I was thinking of getting around the pawns this way, and then I could be in a position to be in a strong place here. So I guess in the back of my mind that's what I was thinking. And then of course I could, at this point, because the pawn took, I could always put the king under check right there. So that's not what happened. Knight took, threatening the queen, and at this point I'm thinking, okay, I could still remove that knight and put pressure under the queen and not have to worry. You'd take my queen, but I would take the knight back. So I figured that's what was going to happen. I was okay with it because it gave me options that way anyway. So here, what I'm talking about is threat of queen. Queen can't take that because I'm kind of I'm protecting with that, and at the same time I'm also putting pressure on that knight to move. I mean, there's some there, but that's not realistic. So queen off, gave up the trade, so there it went. So to me, they gave them an option to come after me, which would save the queen, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. So away it went, and I traded with the pawn. Then it came out to develop the bishop at e7, and I was at this point. This is really I decided to trade, and that was stupid. Really, there's no reason behind that. You don't respond to every threat. Sometimes you just move away, and I mean, I would rather have a bishop pair than, even though that was a bad bishop, I'd rather have the bishop pair head into the end game than a needless trade. I mean, when your material's even, a trade favors black at this point. And if you look at the pawn structure, I've got two isolated pawns here and here. I mean, granted, I do have an open B file for my rook to perch, but and all kinds of room up here as well, if I needed to. I mean, the B was likely to be my perch point though, because it was open entirely. So pawn structures for black here. I mean, it's a little weak with the double pawns, but there's adequate support. So black really looked better structurally here. I wasn't really developed, so I had my pieces here, but they're on the back rank, not really developed yet. And I guess you could say the same thing for black. We're both, obviously, I mean, black could always bring this over here, and the bishop's there to back it up, so it's no big deal. Yeah. So I brought the rook out to E, pinning the bishop against the king, and bringing it out to what would be a half open file, I suppose that would be. Advances the pawn. At this point, I guess I was thinking that it would probably come back down here to attack the pawn here, and I didn't think that was a terrible idea. I mean, of course, I'd have to watch for this at some point, but if so, it would really free this up, because there's no action here. because of my rook pinning to the king. So I wasn't too worried about that. So I brought the knight out, and that served two things really. It enabled me to move the knight out from in front of the rook so that I could move it here, but also exposed it to attack from here if I move down here. And this, as I said, there's nothing that the bishop can do. So that probably realized that, moved its h-pawn down, and I decided to hem it in. It shored up. And then I decided to grab a little bit of space towards the center. So I did that. I don't think that really hurts me. Developed the knight, no doubt, to connect its own rooks. And so I went ahead and put the rook on the b file. And the h-rook went over to e. And then at this point I realized that what was probably happening is the king was probably going to one of these two squares, and I guess it made more sense there at d6 to support both those pieces. And then at some point the bishop was probably going to come here and then threaten with the rook down here. I mean, that made sense to me. So I went ahead and gave check, sort of forced the issue. At this point, this really gives two choices for the king. He can come here or here. And I guess it makes more sense with what's happening here that it would take up the move to d6. And that's what he did. So now my rook's in a position to patrol this area. I guess in retrospect, there with the knight being here, it would have made some sense to have some kind of sacrifice with either that one or that one. No, a trade, I mean, because they're both backed up by it. But that's not what happened. And part of the reason is because this other plan was foiled by bringing the king there. At this point, the rook wouldn't be a clean take. I'm sure the idea was it would like to move the bishop here and then force me to decide what's here. Because if I had moved up here, grabbed that, would have grabbed here, and then could have moved his trade here, and then I would have been taken. So at that point, it would have been bishop against bishop and knight against knight, and that would have been it. I got all kinds of arrows I need to move. So it does that with the rook. I realized that I sort of stymied one. I wasn't certain why this had to be here. This seemed like a kind of nonsensical move. I mean, the rook could have even gone here and been more effective. I mean, what was I going to do? Then control either trade or control the B file. But that's only in retrospect, I guess. So that's not what happened. I moved here. Oops. Moved there. And I figured a trade was at some point was coming on. It was just kind of wasting time. So I went down there, and this pins the knight with the possibility of getting that pawn. And so I know that the knight wasn't in danger with the rook there. There wasn't any danger with these two. If he'd wanted to move this over, he would have already. So I didn't think that was in the plan. And so it tries to protect with the bishop. So at this point, well, I don't know what it was thinking about me taking or not anyway. There wasn't much danger there. So at this point, with I wanted to grab some material and be able to free up some space so that I can bring up my knight right there. So I went ahead and took. And I guess when I think back, this would have been a great time for that knight. Oops. Excuse me. Would have been a great time for that knight to go over there. Especially with my next move, it would have made ton of sense. No, I guess it wasn't. I guess it would have. There's nothing I could have done. If so, I would have moved it here, and see if I moved here, it moved it, and then I could have moved the pawn up too in support. But it would have taken. I would have taken, and then I could have. Yeah, that's probably why the bishop was there, because I could have taken the knight, and the bishop could have taken me. So that would have been bad for me, I guess. So I think I didn't do that. Instead, I wasted a move, essentially, by bringing the pawn over one. And it wasn't. I don't see the sense of that. I mean, it would have made more sense just bring the rook down and take me there. I don't know what was going on there. But that was one move too late, because there I am. That's a mate. With me controlling the e-file without it being willing to do anything. So the king was restrained from being able to... What is that? Excuse me with my arrows. Come on. And one more. There we go. I controlled those three at this point. And with the knight there, I put in check, mate, it turns out, with no escape route. And so that's me. I thought that was decent. So it gives you an idea of how I'm thinking. Obviously an amateur, but I mean, in a 4 or 5 minute game with a lot of hurrying, I think I did okay considering. I guess if I had lost, I would have thought differently. So anyway, the Philidor. Thank you.